Hello, and welcome to the next session, the next video on FSMail training. Our topic for today is to take you through the process of migrating your data from Exchange to FSMail. Now, really, we're going to cover a little more than just that basic problem because there are some issues about making decisions about how much mail to migrate, how much you can migrate, how long it's going to take, and things like that. Particularly if you have personal files, you may have much more data than you'd really like to move from Exchange or from your personal file up to FSMail. And we're going to cover that for you today as well. Now, we're starting out at the help desk, helpdesk.bradley.edu/FSMail. And this is the primary help page for FSMail. You'll notice that there is a frequently asked questions option down here at the bottom, where we have worked very hard to document all of the questions, all of the problems that have come up as part of this. We're doing some training videos. This is one of those. There's the training presentation that's actually done that you've already been through, and then there's this instructions for completing your transition to FSMail. And if you click on that, this page pops up. In some cases, you're going to have already done some of these things, and there are some things we're not going to cover. We're not going to cover the part about downloading Google Chrome as your browser. It really doesn't matter to me whether you're using Google Chrome or whether you're using Firefox or something else. It will act a little bit differently. We recommend Google Chrome, but you can use anything you like there. The second thing listed here is disabling the Barracuda. And in some cases, you're going to have already done this in class. I'm not going to cover that. If you haven't done it in class, you notice I just clicked back to the FSMail page, the primary FSMail page. I'm going to look at training videos, and the third one listed there is how to deal with spam in FSMail and disable the Barracuda. So that video already tells you how to disable the Barracuda, so we don't need to do that again right now. The third item here is migrating your data, and the first item listed for you to do is to go watch a video and learn some things. This is actually the video that we hope you'll be watching, so we're going to skip past that part and go to step 2, which is the primary issue. Now, according to step 2, it says that you should start by downloading Google Apps Migration Tool. And we're not actually going to start there. We're going to postpone that for just a minute. We're going to go look at Outlook and Exchange itself. And when you look at this, let me get it into what I suspect it's going to look at when you launch Outlook to Exchange. You're going to have your mailbox here. And then perhaps underneath your mailbox, I don't know how many folders you might have or anything like that. I've already migrated my data from here, so I really don't have a lot of that to do with. But I do have some personal files. This one is an archive file, you can see here. I want to show you how to find out how many personal files you have and how large they are. And to do that easily, we're going to start right up here with the mailbox label. There's a minus next to it. Click on that minus and it collapses everything in the mailbox. The next line after that would be a personal file. In this case, it's archive 2009-2010. You collapse that one, and I've got one called Bradley 2005. I collapse that one, I've got one called jcrook.com. And I'm going to pause this for just a second. And now I'm back. I had forgotten to do something. I've got one more personal file here. It's one called Bradley Mail. I'm going to collapse it. So what I've got here now is a mailbox, and I've got four PST files. We'll make it clearer on why I went out and got that extra file here in just a few minutes. I want to start out by finding out how large each one of these items are, starting with the mailbox. I'm going to point the cursor at the mailbox. I'm going to right-click. That's going to bring up a drop-down menu. I'm going to go to the bottom and click Properties, and then I'm going to click on Folder Size. And this tells me that the total size of this folder is 4,268 kilobytes, KB, kilobytes. So that's actually 4.268 megabytes. I'm going to make a note of that, call it 4.3 meg. Close that, cancel out of this, go down to the next, the archive 2009-2010. Same procedure. Click on folder size. This one is 648,953 K bytes. So that's 648. Let's call it 649 megabytes. Close that out. And I recommend you go through the same procedure on your own files. You may have more or fewer of them. This one is a little larger, 759,417. This is Bradley 2005. So that I'm going to call 760 megabytes. Now here's the one that I forgot to have open when I initially ran this. I want to show you this one because this one is actually the very large one. This one is 3,408,093 kilobytes. Now that's 3,408 megabytes, or about 3.4 gigabytes. Finally, we're going to check this last one. And this one is 297,974 kilobytes. Let's call that 298 megabytes. So now we know how large these are. Well, you might ask, why do I want to know? And the answer is because you really don't want to migrate more than about 2 gigabytes in a single migration session. 2 gigabytes. Now that's 2,000 megabytes. So if you remember, that Bradley Mail file is 3,408 megabytes all by itself. But if we drop it out of the list, then everything else is going to be 1,711 meg, or about 1.7 gig. And that would work just fine. So what I'm going to do at this point is go back to this file, this Bradley Mail file, and I'm going to start by going to Properties again. This time what I want to know, I'm going to close this because every file that is open in Outlook is what we're going to migrate in our first execution. So to make sure we don't migrate this Bradley Mail file, we need to close it. Before I close it, I want to make sure I know the name of it. So I click on this Advanced tab, and right here it tells me the complete name. And this Documents part right here refers to my documents on this folder. There's a folder there called My Mail, and this is bradleymail.pst. That's the name of the file, and I make a note of that for later use. Then what I'm going to do is go back here, right-click again, and I'm going to close Bradley Mail. I have now opened 3 personal files plus the mailbox in Outlook, and I'm ready to migrate. So I'm going to discount that. I'm going to go back to this set of instructions that we had, and I'm now going to click on this tab for Google Apps Migration Tool. I'm going to download it here. I want to keep that. Now, depending on the browser that you're using, it will act differently. In the case of Chrome, it will show you the last things you migrated or you downloaded recently right here, and you could actually execute it from right here. In other cases, it's usually going to put them in a download folder. So if you click on the directory here and go to Downloads, look at the date modified, or Outlook migration setup is actually the file that you're looking for, and we're going to just execute that file from right here. Yes, we want to do that. Yes, we want to allow it to make changes. Now it's doing the installation, and it's actually going to execute immediately when it completes. So we're actually done with this part behind it, so I'm going to get rid of that just so I can. This is the migration tool, and the first thing it's asking for is your sign-on to your Google account. So that's going to be your BUNet ID at fsmail.bradley.edu. You do already have a password, so you're going to enter that password right down here. And continue. Generally speaking, you can ignore this part about use my most recent migration settings. You're normally going to want to migrate all data down here. This is a drop-down list. There are two ways that it runs. This is the default that I have here is the name of the profile that I have in Outlook. That's always going to come up there, whatever yours is. I don't know what yours is going to be called, but it will be listed there. The other option is from a PST file. PST file is the same thing as a personal file. So that's the option we're going to use to move that personal file later on after we do the Outlook migration itself. This one is going to move 3 PST files plus the inbox itself. You want it to move the calendar, your contacts, and your email messages. You want it to do all of those. You could make a choice here to migrate your junk mail, your deleted items. You could limit the migration to only things handled after a certain date or before a certain date. So you have that capability if you wish. In most cases, you're going to migrate everything that's there, and that's those 3. Now, as I told you, I've already migrated this. I am going to take you through this enough to get an idea of what's going to happen next. We're going to press on Migrate, and what it's doing right now is going out and counting the number of items in each of these categories that you need to migrate. It's actually counting those in the files, and it's going to come up with an item that tells you how far along, how much progress it's made at any point in time. I'm going to pause that right now. I don't want anything to go. In this case, I've got 573 contacts, 1,405 calendar items, and I've got 21,687 email messages. Now that number, that 21,687, is actually going to tell me something. 21,687. It's actually going to migrate approximately 1 a second. So if I take that number and divide it by 60, my migration is going to take about 361 minutes. I divide that by 60, that's actually a little over 6 hours. So this migration, as I have it here, would take a little over 6 hours. And that's how you know how long it's going to take. I'm going to cancel that now because I really don't want another round of those things uploaded and end up with a bunch of duplicates. You're going to let that run to completion, and you're going to find after you've done that when you go to your to your FSMail account, you're going to see all of that mail showing up over here. If you really want to look for it, you can click on All Mail, and that'll show you exactly what you've got. In our case, in my case here, I've got a little over 15,000 messages in All Mail. You can see that I did not migrate all of my PST files. Some of those PST files, in my case, are really historical things that I do not need up there. So that's a decision that I have made. Now, in your case, I want to point to another video that's back here, and that's the second one, how to use Outlook to access PST files on your desktop with FSMail. So if you want to leave a PST file or a personal file on your desktop and use Outlook to access that PST file, and also have Outlook configured to connect to FSMail, which allows you to easily drag and drop individual email items from your personal file to your inbox in FSMail. So if you do need to access that historical information, you can, but you don't have to move it up there unless you decide to. Okay, now with that in mind, we want to go through one more step, and that is what happens if I do. I've already moved my mailbox and maybe some of the PST files, maybe none of them, it doesn't matter. Now what I want to do is I've decided I want to move that PST file. So we stopped the migration. Now we're going to start it again. Okay, I'm going to click on the world here, go up to all programs. You'll find a part that says Google Apps Migration, and we're going to execute that again. Remember, what we're going to do this time is migrate that PST file. So I'm going to enter my FSMail account again. This time, instead of going through Outlook, I'm going to go to a PST, and that pops up this this screen for me to go find my my PST file. If you remember, it was in My Documents in a folder called My Mail, and the item was called Bradley Mail, and it was this one right here. So we're going to open it. I'm going to migrate all data from it. I'm going to hit Next. I don't have any calendar items in it, don't have any contacts, so I'm going to X those out, and then I'm going to press Migrate. And you've already seen what happens. It will actually go out and count all of those and tell me how many I have. Then I can calculate how long it's going to take. I would guess that it would take about 10 hours to do this. It's very, very large, and it's not something I need. I don't want to move those up there. So I'm going to cancel out instead of letting it run. Now, in all honesty, we're actually done with this. We're not going to finish that. In all honesty, that was 3,408 megabytes. What I should have done before I migrated that is go back here to Outlook, create a new PST file, a brand new one, copy half of that data out of, or move half of that data out of that very large file into this secondary file, and move each of those separately so that I'm not trying to move more than 2 gig at a time. If that becomes a problem for you, by all means contact us. We'll be happy to help. If you need anything, by all means call the help desk. These videos are shown up under training videos here on the FSMail training page. Good luck in your migration, and call if you need help. Thanks for watching. See you next time.